Data classes, immutability, simple serialization. This is what Dart does not offer right off the bat. While Dart is surely one of the better languages with regards to its simplicity, it just currently lacks the support for value types. When you compare two objects of the same type with identical contents, they will still turn out to be not equal. By default, Dart checks for referential equality, not value equality. Making a copy of an object is also painful. You have to write so much code. And serialization, well, don't even mention that because there is even more repetitive code for you to write. But not with built value library. It will save you so much time by allowing you to write good quality code without all the repetition. Hello, welcome to ResoCoder. This is the library that you are going to learn about in this tutorial. Currently it's at version 6.2.0, but this tutorial should work even with more up-to-date versions, because at this point this library build value is just so mature that there should not be any breaking changes down the road. Let's now go into VS Code and let's add this build value library over to our project. So in the pubspec YAML file we are going to add a dependency which will be the build value. This is simply copied from the libraries page, and then also build value depends on build value generator, which depends on build runner. So we are going to add them under dev dependencies. So yeah, build value generates some code for you so that you don't have to write it by hand. When we press save, it's going to, these packages are gonna be gotten. And now I am using Flutter in this tutorial, but build value is just pure Dart library, so you don't need to use Flutter. But just for simplicity, because I think that most people who are using Dart are using it because of Flutter, so that's why we are working here. However, we are basically not going to touch Flutter in this tutorial at all. We are going to be working only with console output. The only thing that we are going to be doing with Flutter in this tutorial is that we are going to again remove all of the comments. So Control F, then search for / dot and asterisk, enable regex, and we want to replace all comments with blank space. Now format and save. Then, because we don't want to be dealing with Flutter, we are going to delete this counter because we don't need it. We are going to delete this whole body element of the scaffold. So you are going to be left only with the app bar and also the floating action button. And this unpressed property of our floating action button will call our function, which will be simply void run code. It's going to be private. So we want to run code here. So this will be called from the unpressed in floating action button. So whenever we press the button, our code will run and the console output will be shown in our debug console right over here. So unpressed will call run code, and also you can get this full code from the link in the video description if you don't want to type this all out. And then, because we don't just want to type our code into this my homepage state class, we are going to create a separate class called code runner right under the lib folder. So let's create a new Dart file, code runner, and this file will contain only one simple class, code runner, and it will have a static void run code. This is where our code will be written. So now inside the main.dart file, inside run code, we are going to simply call code runner.run code, and also import code runner over here. And now we are good to go, so we can move toward the build value. Alright, so it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to create some build value right now. We are going to create a class representing a vehicle, and we are going to call it build vehicle. So let's create a new file for that under the lib folder. Actually, not directly under lib folder, but let's organize our code a bit. So we are first going to create a model folder, and inside this model folder we are going to put our build vehicle.dart. Build values are abstract classes. Our will be named build vehicle, and they have to implement from build, and inside the build's type parameters we are going to first specify the build vehicle class. So just copy and paste that here. And then build vehicle builder. This build vehicle builder will be generated for us by the code generation of the build value code generator. This code generator brings me to another point, and that is that you need to specify a part for this file, because this build vehicle Dart file doesn't at all make sense on its own. It needs to be a part of something else, and it will be part of the generated code, which will be under build vehicle.g for generated .dart. It will make sense in just a little while when this code will be actually generated. Then our build vehicle will have some fields or properties. So string get brand. It needs to be a getter only. That's because build values are immutable. We're going to add more properties later. Just for now, let's move on. And then every build value, so even our build vehicle, needs to have a private default constructor. So build vehicle dot and underscore and then two parentheses. This is a private constructor. And then every build value needs to have a factory. So factory build value. And inside this factory, we need to be able to provide a build vehicle builder. And again, now we are going to refer to some code which is currently not generated, so just bear with me here and everything will make sense a bit later. So this build vehicle factory will have inside of it like optional parameter and then updates. This will hold build vehicle builder called B, and this will simply call build vehicle with underscore $, and then build vehicle. This will all be generated for us later. And obviously this should not be build value, but rather build vehicle, my bad. And also it's not a bad practice to make this build vehicle class and this whole file into its own separate library with just a name build vehicle, although it's really not needed, but it's just good practice to do. So library, build vehicle. Now we can save it, but nothing besides the beautification of our code through Dart formatter is not going to happen. That is because we need to run a command in order for this build vehicle to actually generate some code for us. So let's open terminal and now let's write Flutter packages, and then we want to have a command pub run, and we want to run build runner, and then we can either run build for just one-time build or watch, which will basically watch for file saves, and whenever a file is saved it will trigger a new build. So I will opt in for watch, and you should probably too. Always, if you are working with build values, you are going to change these files a lot. So if you don't want to just constantly run this command, just say watch and you're gonna be good to go. It will take some time to initialize, and you can see that nothing happens. Well, why is that? Well, it's pretty simple. It's just that we haven't imported this build library here. So let's import build value.dart. And now when we save it, we can see that now it actually works, but we still have some problems. But this can be really simply resolved by just deleting one letter from the name of a property and then adding it back and then saving again. It's just a bug with Visual Studio, I think. So if something like that happens to you, you can resolve it just like that by deleting one letter and then adding it back, and it will all work again. So now we have a working build vehicle class. When we take a look at the build vehicle.g.dart file, which is the generated file, it's really long. That's because there is all of the code which you don't need to write. So it really saves you a lot of time. This will make the class immutable. It will make it a data class so that the comparisons will be value-based and not reference-based. But you can probably tell that creating build values like this is a really long process. Just to type out all of this code is really like redundant, right? That's why we have snippets of code in VS Code. So let me delete everything what I just created here, and I'm going to use my own snippets, and then I will show them to you, and also you will be able to get them from the link in the video description. But now let's use the snippets. So I can write something like BLTH, which is build value header, and here I just specify build vehicle, and I automatically have all of the libraries and packages imported. And then I will simply write BLT, call it build vehicle, and I'm good to go. So how can you add these snippets into your VS Code? Well, it's simple. Just download the code from the link in the video description, which is gonna take you to resocoder.com, and then go over to File, then Preferences, and you wanna open up User Snippets. Open User Snippets for Dart, so just search Dart, and here they go. And now just paste everything from resocoder.com over here, and here are all the snippets. I built them myself, and I am happy to share them with you. So we have BLT for simple build value, then BLTS for serializable build value. We're going to get to that in just a bit. And then we also have BLTH for build value header. So that's pretty neat. Alright, so now let's add all of the fields or properties to our build vehicle class. It's going to have string get type, then string brand, and also double price. And now when we save it, we have an error in build vehicle generated file. What is that? That's interesting. We are probably just going to delete this generated file. That's always a good practice because you can just freely delete generated files. You are not going to lose anything. And now save this again. So just change one letter, add it here, back, and save it. Maybe we've just messed a bunch of things up after we have deleted and recreated this abstract class. So just run the watch command again. Yeah, the simplest thing that you can always do is to just rerun your commands. And now when we delete one letter and add it back, we are going to be good to go. So now that we have this built vehicle all explained, all explored, we are going to explore how we can use this built vehicle class. So let's go to our code runner.dart. And how can you create a built vehicle? Well, we are going to create var car, and it's going to be equal to our built vehicle. So let's import that library, or actually our model class over here. And we can create new instances of built vehicle by calling its factory. This factory will grant us a builder, so B, then a lambda function, so to say. And then inside of here, we are going to use the cascading operator on this builder. So we are going to write B, and then two dots, which is the cascading operator. Type, it will be equal to car in this example, because we are creating a car, obviously. Then the brand will be, for example, Tesla. And finally, the price, so price, will be 100,000. Now we can print the car and launch the Android emulator so that I can show you by hitting the floating action button. So now when I hit the floating action button here and then open up the console, so debug console, you'll be able to see the build vehicle which is printed out, which is of type car, the brand is Tesla, and the price is 100,000. Now, how do you copy a build value? While copying is pretty time consuming to do with normal classes, with build value classes it's really easy. All you have to do is to create a new variable, so var copied car, and it will be equal to car, so our first car over here, dot rebuild. This also grants us a builder, and on this builder we want to use the cascading operator again, and we will change the brand to be BMW. So now we can print even the copied car, and when we run the code again, you can see that the first printed car is built vehicle of brand Tesla, and then the second one is BMW. So even though that we called rebuild function on the car object, it didn't change the car itself, it only returned a new instance of car. And also, if we just create two cars, which will be identical, so car and car2, they are exactly the same. And then we will try to print out whether or not car1 and car2 are equal, so car1 or car equals car2. Normal Dart classes would say that these two are not equal because they are not of the same object. They don't hold the same reference to the memory in the computer. But in the case of value classes, these two objects are the same because they hold the same data. So when we run the code again here, you'll be able to see that it prints out nothing because this is not an equality comparison. I have to write another equal here, so sorry for that. But now, when we run the code, you will be able to see that it prints out true. Yeah, because these two are equal. Alright, but now what happens if I, for example, don't want to specify the brand? Let me first get rid of the car2 because we are not going to need it anymore. So in the car1, I'm going to delete the brand. So now the brand will be not set. And when we run the code now and see the console, you'll be able to see that we get some error here. And that is precisely that the following build value null field error was thrown while handling a gesture. So we try to construct class build vehicle with null field brand. This is forbidden. To allow it, you have to make brand, you have to mark it with nullable annotation. So this is really simple. Whenever you want to have something nullable, you have to mark it with nullable. So let's go to our build vehicle class, and we are now going to make the brand nullable. We are simply going to add another property here. It's going to be boolean, so bool get, and it will be called just some nullable value. And in order to make it nullable so that we don't need to specify it when we are creating new objects of type build vehicle, we are going to mark it with the annotation nullable. And now, even though we do not specify some nullable value in the constructor here of the build vehicle, we still can run this code and it will not crash this time because it is nullable. No crashes, everything works properly now. Now comes the question, how can you add some kind of a collection to the build vehicle or to any kind of build value for that matter? Can you just simply add a list? So list of type string, for example, passenger names. It may seem like you can do it like this, but you cannot. You have to use something called build collections, and there is a build collection for every kind of possible normal collection. So for list, there is a build list. It's from the library called build collection.dart. So let's save our build vehicle file. And working with build list is really simple. Let's jump into our code runner and we are going to add passengers. So passenger names, we can add passenger names by calling add all on this build list. And we want to add an iterable, which will be a simple list containing John, Sophia, Dave, and Linda. So now when we run the code, it will still work, hopefully. So let's first open up the debug console. And now when we run it, so I hit the plus button. Yeah, we have passenger names and they are John, Sophia, Dave, and Linda. So everything works. And still the brand in the first car is Tesla. In the second one, it's BMW. Alright, but I really do not like that the type of a vehicle is a simple string, because yeah, it's car, it can be a train, it can be a plane, but it can also be some gibberish, right? This is just not good. We need to change it to be an enum. But we have a problem with enums because enums in Dart are really not classes and they are not all that powerful. But thankfully, build value comes with its own enum class. So let's go to our build vehicle file and we are going to create our own enum. So let's create a new class under our build vehicle. It will be called vehicle type. It will extend enum class. All of the possible vehicle types are going to be specified as static constant fields. So static const vehicle type called car. And it will be equal to something made up. So you can add any name here because it's going to be generated for you by the code generator, but the good practice is to just add underscore and $, and then car. We are going to do the same for motorbike, train, and plane, and you can get the code from the link in the video description if you don't want to type everything out. Then every enum class needs to have a special kind of constructor. It will be a constant constructor, so vehicle type, and then it will be private, so dot underscore. It will obtain one string name, and then it passes this name string to its super constructor. So just pass name to the super constructor and you are good to go. Then every enum class has a getter for values, which will simply return the list of car, motorbike, train, and plane. So this getter is called values and it's static build set. Set is basically a collection which can contain only one element of a certain value. So build set of type vehicle type, get values, it's going to return underscore $, and then values. Then also it needs to have a function value of, which will get a name. So static vehicle type value of, which gets a string name. And it will return a vehicle type for the name. So for example, if we pass in car string, it will return this vehicle type car. It will call value of, which is a generated function. So again, underscore $ value of, and pass in the name. Again, we were getting build errors, but simply deleting one letter and then adding it back in solve all of those problems. So really that's just a bug of VS Code, I think. And now what we can do is that we can change the type of our type property in our build vehicle from string to our enum vehicle type. So we can no longer specify some gibberish into our type because it will not build. So save it again. And when we now go into our code runner, you can see that you cannot specify something of type string as a type. So we need to specify vehicle type. And in this case, it's going to be car. So car. And let's mix things up a bit in the copied car. It's no longer going to be a copied car, but rather a copied train. So we want to also print out copied train. And in addition to the brand, it also will have changed type. So cascading operator and then type will be vehicle type and then train. And also because it is a train, it cannot be BMW. I think that BMW doesn't make trains as far as I'm concerned. So it will be some different brand. And I think that Škoda Transportation is a good candidate for that. So I will even change to my Slovak keyboard here and write Škoda Transportations or transportation. I looked it up on Wikipedia. That is a real brand of trains, of train cars, of locomotives. So now when we run the code, it will run just fine, and the output is that build vehicle is first, type car, Tesla, 100,000, and the passengers stay the same. And then the second build vehicle is train, Škoda Transportation, and the other two properties stay the same. Alright, so we've covered the basics of build value, we've added nullable fields, we've also added enums, we've explored how you can add collections to your build value classes, and that is by using build collections. But we are still missing one thing which is really awesome about build value library, and that is really simple serialization. So let's add it right now. In order to make a class serializable, you basically need to add only one line of code into your class, and that is static serializer of type build vehicle. It will be a getter called serializer, and it will return something generated called underscore $, and then build vehicle serializer. This will be generated for us in just a bit. This is all you really need to add here in order to make this class serializable, but what I like to do is to also add some helper functions for converting to JSON and also from JSON. So they look something like this. toJSON calls json.encode, and we encode the output of calling serializers, which will be generated for us, and then serialize with build vehicle serializer, and we want to serialize this instance of build vehicle. So this is here, and then from JSON we'll obtain a JSON string, and it will return an instance of build vehicle, and also we are deserializing with build vehicle serializer, and we decode JSON, which is passed into this function as a JSON string. And also you can get all of these helper functions and also this serializer when you create a new class as BLTS from the snippets which I provided at the beginning of this tutorial, because BLTS does something like this. It adds toJSON from JSON and also the serializer here, but we are not going to use it because we've already added those lines of code ourselves. Now this still wouldn't work because even though build value serializer can serialize every single basic type which is present in Dart, and also build lists are serializable, and also build maps and build sets and all of that, the problem is that we have our own custom type in here, which is vehicle type. And vehicle type is not yet serializable, so we need to make it serializable by adding one line of code over there. And that line of code is basically identical to the one which is present in build vehicle, but it's going to be for vehicle type. So serializer vehicle type, get serializer, and then it returns vehicle type serializer. Now, in order to make this all work, we need to add one new file under the model. It will be called serializers.dart. Inside here we are going to use the snippet, so BLTH for header. It will be called serializers, and in here we want to create a top level field. It will be final serializers, and it will be equal to $_ and serializers. Now we need to annotate this top level field with serializers for. This contains a constant list, and this will serialize build vehicle and vehicle type. Add it here, import it, and now save it. You can immediately see that we have generated serializers.gDart over here, and also save build vehicle.dart. Now we still have some errors over here, but we can fix them by clicking on serializers, which has an error on them. And we need to import these serializers, so control dot. Well, it seems that VS Code doesn't offer any code actions, but we can import them manually, so that serializers field which we are accessing or trying to access here is present under, so import serializers.dart. It's under the same folder, so that's why we can just specify it as that. Otherwise, you would need to specify its path. Alright, so now we are not getting any errors, so we can go to our code runner and convert our car to JSON. So final car JSON is equal to car.toJSON, and we will print this JSON, so print car JSON. And also we are going to create car from JSON. So it's gonna be equal to a new build vehicle, and we are going to create that build vehicle from JSON, pass in the car JSON string, so this one here, which we have just created, and we are now going to leave it as that. We are going to modify this build vehicle a bit, so rebuild, B for builder, and on this builder we are going to modify the price to be only $2,000 or euros or whatever, and then we are going to print even this car from JSON. Alright, so let's open up our debug console here. We have some errors which were previously present, but hopefully they are not present now. And when we now press the plus floating action button, the code will run, and you can see that these two first cars are printed out, so that's cool. But then we have printed out the JSON and also the new car which was made from JSON, and its price is 2000 as set here. But if you take a closer look at this JSON, you can see that it's a bit weird, isn't it? Typically, JSON has key-value pairs, but this has just a list of string values. The type of our vehicle is surely car, and the brand of our vehicle is Tesla. But usually you would have type, car, and then brand, Tesla. But here you have just commas in between, so what's up with that? Well, it turns out that build value library has its own kind of JSON serialization. But that is not a huge problem because you can create a valid typical JSON with just adding one line of code into our serializers.dart. So let's do that right now. So we need to wrap this serializers in parentheses, and then we want to convert this serializers to builder. We want to add a plugin on that, and the plugin's name is standard JSON plugin. We also need to import it. All right, no import is available, so we need to import it manually. So just write import standard JSON plugin.dart, and we want to call build on this. Now when we go back to our code runner and open up the console here, so debug console, open up our emulator and run the code, it's still not changed. Why is that? Well, it just turns out that we need to make a hard restart, so not F5 but Control F5 when you are using Flutter. As I said, this is not a Flutter tutorial, so if you are using just pure Dart console app, you are probably not going to have this problem. So if you are using Flutter and following along this tutorial, just hit Control F5 and you are going to perform hard restart. And now with that hard restart in place, when we run the code again, you can see that the hard restart had its effects, because now this is a JSON that you would expect. So still, even the to.json and also from JSON works, even though we have changed the format of the JSON a bit. And just a quick pro tip at the end, if you don't want to see these generated files, so those .g.dart files, you can go to settings, so control and comma, and search for files, exclude, and you can add a new pattern. And that pattern can be 2 asterisks, then slash, asterisk, and .g.dart, and OK. And you'll be immediately able to see that these two files were hidden from me, but they are still in the file system, so you can access them by viewing this from the Explorer, so reveal in Explorer. And yeah, they are still here, but they are hidden in VS Code. Alright, so I hope that this tutorial helped you. I really wish I had something like that when I was starting out with build value, because it's really more on the harder side to learn a library like that, because it has so many possibilities. So definitely, if you liked it and if it helped you, this tutorial, give it a like and also share it. Then also definitely subscribe to this channel if you don't want to miss more tutorials like this, whether from pure Dart or from Flutter. And also hit the bell button so that you are not going to miss any of my new videos and you are actually gonna get those notifications. Leave a comment if you have anything to say. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and see you in the next video.